Have you ever walked into a store, planning to buy just one thing, only to leave with a shopping bag full of items you never intended to buy? A snack, a drink, a candle, a gadget on sale. Somehow, your simple shopping trip became much more expensive than you expected. Was it because you lack self-control? Not exactly. The truth is, every shelf, every aisle, every discount sign, and even the music playing in the background is carefully designed to influence the way your brain makes decisions. The scary part is, most of these psychological tricks work without you even noticing. In this video, you'll discover the hidden science behind shopping, why stores are so good at making you spend more money, and how understanding your own brain can help you become a smarter shopper. Once you see these tricks, you'll never walk through a store the same way again. Why stores want you to walk slowly. Have you ever noticed that you rarely rush through a supermarket? Even when you're only there to buy a carton of milk, you somehow end up wandering through several aisles before reaching the checkout. This isn't an accident. In fact, it's part of a carefully designed strategy. Stores know that the longer you stay inside, the more likely you are to spend money. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. The more often your brain sees something, the more familiar it feels. And the more familiar something feels, the more likely you are to trust it, and eventually buy it. That's why supermarkets rarely place everyday essentials like milk, eggs, or bread right at the entrance. Instead, they're often located near the back of the store. To reach them, you have to walk past dozens of shelves filled with snacks, drinks, seasonal products, and special offers. Even if you don't plan to buy them, your brain is constantly taking in the information. Then there's the music. Have you ever noticed that many stores play slow, relaxing songs? That's no coincidence either. Studies have found that slower music encourages people to walk more slowly. The longer you browse, the more products you notice. And the more products you notice, the greater the chance you'll make an unplanned purchase. Lighting also plays an important role. Bright, warm lighting makes fruits and vegetables look fresher. Soft lighting can make clothing feel more luxurious. Even pleasant scents, like the smell of fresh bread or freshly brewed coffee, are carefully chosen to trigger positive emotions. Before you've even picked up your first item, your brain is already being influenced by sights, sounds, and smells you barely notice. The surprising truth is that stores aren't just selling products. They're creating an environment that quietly shapes your decisions. And the longer you stay inside, the harder it becomes to leave with only the things you originally came to buy. The secret behind product placement. Have you ever walked into a store for one specific item, but somehow noticed dozens of other products before you found it? That's exactly what stores want. Every product inside a supermarket has a purpose. And every shelf is carefully planned using psychology. One of the most powerful strategies is called eye-level placement. There's an old saying in retail: eye level is buy level. Products placed directly at your eye level are far more likely to be noticed and purchased. That's why premium brands often pay extra money to secure those valuable shelf positions. Meanwhile, cheaper alternatives are frequently placed on the top or bottom shelves, where fewer people naturally look. But that's only the beginning. Have you ever noticed large displays at the end of an aisle? These are known as end caps. Your brain automatically pays attention to them because they stand out from the surrounding shelves. Even if you weren't planning to buy anything from that category, your attention has already been captured. Then comes the final psychological trap: the checkout line. You've probably experienced it countless times. While waiting to pay, you're surrounded by candy, gum, chocolate, soft drinks, batteries, magazines, and other inexpensive items. These aren't placed there by chance. After spending 20 or 30 minutes making shopping decisions, your brain becomes mentally tired. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. When your mental energy is low, you're more likely to make quick, impulsive choices. A small chocolate bar suddenly feels harmless. A cold drink seems irresistible. A pack of gum doesn't seem worth saying no to. Individually, these purchases are inexpensive. But across millions of customers every day, They generate enormous profits. The remarkable part is that most people believe they made these decisions completely on their own. In reality, their environment quietly guided many of those choices long before they reached the checkout. The next time you walk through a store, pay attention to what catches your eyes first. You may discover that your brain is following a path someone else carefully designed. 3 Why discounts feel impossible to ignore. Have you ever walked into a store, saw a giant sign that said, 50% off, and immediately felt like you were getting an amazing deal? Even if you didn't need the product. Even if you had no intention of buying it just a few seconds earlier. That's because your brain doesn't judge prices the way you think it does. Instead, it compares them. Psychologists call this the anchoring effect. Imagine you see a jacket with an original price of $200. Next to it, a bright red tag says, "Now only $99. Your brain doesn't immediately think, "Do I actually need this jacket?" Instead, it compares $99 to $200. Suddenly, $99 feels cheap. Not because it actually is, but because your brain has been anchored to a much higher number. Stores use this strategy everywhere. The original price becomes the anchor. The sale price feels like a bargain, even if the product is still expensive. Another powerful trick is limited time offers. Signs that say, "Today only," "Last chance," "Only 3 left in stock," create a sense of urgency. Your brain begins to fear missing out. Psychologists call this FOMO, the fear of missing out. Instead of asking, "Do I really need this?" your brain starts asking, "What if I regret not buying it?" That tiny shift in thinking can completely change your decision. Then there's something called decoy pricing. Imagine you have 3 options. A small popcorn for $5, a medium popcorn for $8, and a large popcorn for $9. Most people suddenly think, "For just $1 more, I might as well get the large." The medium option was never meant to be the best deal. It was designed to make the large option feel irresistible. This isn't an accident. It's psychology. The truth is, stores don't just lower prices. They shape the way your brain perceives value. And once your brain believes it's getting a great deal, it becomes much easier to spend money you never planned to spend. The next time you see a huge discount sign, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself one simple question. Am I buying this because I need it, or because my brain thinks it's too good to miss? 4 Why you buy things you never planned to buy. Have you ever gone shopping for just 1 item, and somehow returned home with 5? A bag of chips, a scented candle, a new mug, a drink you weren't even thirsty for. When you look at your receipt, you wonder, why did I buy all of this? The answer often has very little to do with the products themselves. It has everything to do with how your brain responds to rewards. Every time you discover something new, exciting, or unexpected, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. Many people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. But neuroscientists now know it's more accurate to call it the anticipation chemical. It doesn't simply make you enjoy rewards. It makes you want them. That's why spotting a product with a bright, new arrival sign instantly grabs your attention. A colorful package, a limited edition, a product you've never seen before. Your brain becomes curious. It begins imagining how good it would feel to own it. That feeling alone can be enough to trigger an impulse purchase. Stores understand this perfectly. That's why you'll often find small, inexpensive products placed near the checkout. Lip balm, chocolate, phone accessories, travel-size cosmetics. These items don't require much thinking. They're cheap enough that your brain says, "Why not?" There's another reason impulse buying becomes even stronger. After spending 30 or 40 minutes comparing products, reading labels, and making decisions, your mental energy starts running low. This is known as decision fatigue. When your brain is tired, it becomes much more likely to choose immediate rewards instead of making careful decisions. Self-control becomes weaker. Impulse becomes stronger. That's why shopping while you're hungry, stressed, or emotionally exhausted often leads to spending more money than you planned. Your brain isn't just buying products. Sometimes it's buying comfort. Sometimes it's buying excitement. Sometimes it's buying a brief moment of happiness after a difficult day. The surprising truth is that many purchases aren't driven by need at all. They're driven by emotion. And once you recognize that, you begin to realize that the biggest influence on your shopping cart isn't the store. It's the way your brain responds to the world around it. 5. How to outsmart store psychology. The good news is, stores may understand psychology. But once you understand it too, their tricks become far less powerful. The first strategy is surprisingly simple. Never shop without a list. Before you leave home, decide exactly what you need. A shopping list gives your brain a clear mission. Instead of reacting to every colorful display and special offer, you stay focused on your original goal. The second rule is one of the oldest and most effective. Never go grocery shopping when you're hungry. When you're hungry, your brain becomes far more sensitive to food-related rewards. The smell of fresh bread seems irresistible. Snacks suddenly look more appealing. Research has shown that hungry shoppers tend to buy more food, and often more unhealthy food, than they originally planned. Another powerful technique is called the 24-hour rule. If you find something expensive that wasn't on your list, don't buy it immediately. Walk away. Give yourself 24 hours before making the decision. By the next day, the emotional excitement has usually faded. And you'll be able to decide with logic instead of impulse. You can also create a spending limit before entering the store. When your brain already knows the budget, it's much less likely to justify unnecessary purchases. Perhaps the most important habit of all is learning to pause. The next time you pick up something you didn't plan to buy, ask yourself one simple question. Do I need this? Or do I simply want the feeling this product promises? That small pause gives the rational part of your brain time to catch up with your emotions. In many cases, that's all it takes to make a better decision. The truth is, shopping isn't just about money. It's about understanding how your brain responds to temptation. The more aware you become of these psychological tricks, the more control you gain over your choices. Because the smartest shoppers aren't the ones who find the biggest discounts. They're the ones who understand how their own minds work. Ending plus call to action. The next time you walk into a store, look around carefully. Notice the music, the lighting, the product placement, the giant discount signs. You'll begin to see that you're not just entering a store. You're entering a carefully designed psychological experience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for Mind Unlocked.